This is The Competitive Edge with Noah Kagan. Welcome to The Competitive Edge. My name is Scott Britton, and I'm here to help you answer a question that we all have. How can I get an edge in my business and life? Each week, we're going to uncover how some of the most successful and inspiring entrepreneurs, entertainers, and thought leaders get an edge, so you too can reach your full potential. Thanks for tuning in today. Now let's get started. Hey, Scott Britton here with another episode of The Competitive Edge. Before I dive in today to tell you a little bit about today's awesome guest, I just want to thank you for giving me your time and for taking some of your own precious time to listen to this show. It means a lot to me and I really appreciate it. So thanks. Today's guest is Noah Kagan, who I am just really excited to have on the show. Noah was number 30 at Facebook.com. You know that website where all your friends hang out and all of us spend way too much time on? He also helped launch Mint.com and has since then started multiple million-dollar companies, including his latest, AppSumo. What I really like about Noah in today's interview is that he just thinks differently and he approaches things in a very smart way. And this interview, I mean, it's a little all over the place, but I mean that in an awesome way. We talk about everything from what he learned from his ex-girlfriend to painting our toenails to some really amazing frameworks we can use to make better decisions. And my favorite one from this interview is something he calls identifying the anomalies of success and doubling down on those. And we're going to kind of wind down that path a little bit and talk about some specific marketing strategies he's done, some strategies he's used to convince people to do things for him, and in the process, learn a lot of interesting stories and anecdotes that we can apply to our own life. So without further ado, here's today's guest, Noah Kagan. All right, Noah, what is up, man? How you doing?
Good. Just worked out. Now I'm on a yoga mat on the floor doing a little podcast with you.
Nice, man. like that. So, Noah, for everybody who's not familiar with AppSumo, can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, it's a totally free newsletter to help entrepreneurs kick ass. So once or twice a week, we'll find cool products, send them out, generally get good prices on them, and then people can buy them or not. And, we'll promote things from like FreshBooks, LinkedIn, MailChimp, tools for designing, tools for starting like how to do certain marketing activities. Like today, a surprise one. We promoted a thing called Share as Image, which helps you create stupidly quick images. And that thing blew up. We were a little surprised how well it's done.
So I literally, can you be more specific about this product? It sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, man. So it's one of these things where what I always encourage people to do in business as well as in life is just try to look at for things that are already working so you can do more of them. And one of the things that we started experimenting with, so on my personal site, OKDork.com, I work with a guy named Tyler. And so he started posting quotes of things I would say or quotes from articles I would read or something like that on my Twitter. And I hate talking about Twitter in public. I think it's really lame, but I'll do it. It just sounds dorky. It's like, oh, man, you remember that tweet I wrote?
Yeah, it is really dorky.
At least my site's called OKDork, so that's fair. But he started posting them on Twitter, and it literally would get 25 to 50 retweets and favorites. And so he's doing it manually because he would he'd make a picture with the background and the quote, and people would go apeshit versus just writing the text out. And so I asked him, I was like, dude, how are you making those? He's like, I use this program called GIMP, which is like 1950s and it takes forever. And I showed him Share as Image, which basically makes it really easy to take any image and put text over it. And the free version is pretty damn good, so you don't even need to pay. But we promoted that, and it was just, frankly, and this is something I've learned in business, is that we just thought it was a great product, and we were really proud to promote it. And it blew up. And the second thing why it's been popular, and I think this is a good kind of business tip for almost anyone, is that what we offered wasn't just like everyone. I don't know how about you. I hate subscriptions. I fucking hate things monthly on my bills. So we offered it as a forever plan. And mentally, even if you're offering something that's a forever thing, saying that is just such a powerful statement as long as it's real. And so that was really the hook that I think a lot of people have been, besides it's a good product, I think that angle as well makes it easier for people to make a purchase.
Yeah, there's a sense of relief. I don't feel like I have like a ball and chain tied to me when it's a forever purchase. And this product that you just mentioned, it actually sounds a little bit like the Twilighter product in some ways. And I know that one of the things you just came out with for AppSumo is Sumo Me. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Dude, you just love me plugging myself. I was going to spend the time. I think we should talk about your listeners and helping them kick more ass.
All right, dude, let's do that.
Yeah, people go check sumome.com. It's a free tool to help you grow your website. That's it.
Cool. Love it. So, we were talking a little bit about before the call about like your workout and kind of like how you've changed like your focus on your physiology and things like that, and how it's made a huge impact in your life. Can you talk about kind of like your transformation in terms of how much emphasis you put on fitness?
Yeah, man. Well, I'll give you two stories that I think are relevant for your audience where, yesterday I was feeling pretty mopey, and I don't know about you. I go through days where like, I don't feel like yesterday. I did not feel like working whatsoever. And it's funny because you see people that are quote unquote successful or have a little more audience or attention or made some money. And you think, oh, they must be working all the time. And what's their schedule and all their shit? I'll tell you, I have some friends who are really rich, much richer than I am. And those guys are on Reddit all fucking day. They're just dicking around. And it happens. You're going to have those days and you're going to have productive days. And it's good to accept them. But the point that I was going to highlight was that I was feeling kind of mopey. And so around lunchtime, I went and worked out with a friend. And I'll tell you, right afterwards, I was like, I'm pumped. I'm feeling it, right? Like, and it just gets you alive. It gets your blood flowing. And I'll tell you, when that stuff is connected, like when you're working on your body, it's much easier to be more productive with your work and subsequently with women and relationships. So that was one interesting thing that's kind of, I've been more aware from being much more healthy and prioritizing that, is that the healthier you are, you're going to feel better, you're going to look better and have more sex, which is good. But it also helps with your business life as well as relationships in general. The other story I was going to tell you was how I got started in it. And I think everyone has to have their own journey with that. And I was actually on this, and I never shared this publicly, but I was on a bike ride with my ex-girlfriend. And, basically during the bike ride, she's like, you are fat, you are overweight, you are hungover now. And this bike ride should take 4 hours. It was taking me about 8 hours. And so we ended up breaking up on the bike ride. It was not a bike ride, but I think one of the pieces of things I've learned, a friend of mine worked for Keith Ferrazzi. And one of the things he said, and I love this line, was that all feedback is good. It's up to you to decide what to do with it. And I really enjoyed that quote. And so, the next day after, we broke up and she kind of really ragged on me, I was like, you know what, that bitch is right. Not that all women are bitches. I'm just saying that, like, I was a little upset at the time. That lady was right. And, from that point, I started working with Adam from mybodytutor.com. And I realized that, having, changing my dieting, changing my like exercising and so forth has really made my life a lot better. And I've even involved with that stuff, man, where like I used to run all the time and I kind of started being like, Noah, I fucking hate running. Like, I'm not happy doing this. And so it's starting to evaluate. And this is what I mentioned earlier. I call it anomalies of success, which is like, look at things you're doing that are working, do more of it, look at things that are not working and do less of them. And I think people just keep doing shit that doesn't work for them in the hopes that it'll change. And that's called insanity. And so I kind of said, this running thing isn't working for me, but I'm enjoying weightlifting and other forms of cardio. So I'm enjoying like the treadmill, or I'm enjoying Stairmaster, or like interval running. And so it's figuring out that balance of, what is giving you the overall life that makes you feel good. And so it's been a really interesting kind of evolution, working with Adam from My Body Tutor, figuring out like foods. Like, how many times, Scott, for yourself, have you, after lunch felt like shit?
A lot, man. I've done that basically every time I've eaten a carb.
Yeah. It's funny. I always make fun of people with celiac disease, but it is interesting to just note. And there's a book I was mentioning to you. It's called Power of Full Engagement. And this book was it's one of my top 10 lifetime books. And what I love about it is it really got me thinking about how not just food, which is critical, but, exercising as well as people and the things you work on affect your energy levels. And so I started really trying to think about what gives me more energy. Like, and notice this for yourself next time, man. Like, notice you have a conversation with people. Like, let's say you have this conversation and afterwards you're like, dude, I'm fucking pumped. I'm going to go work out. I'm going to go make some money. I'm going to have some sex. Versus other ones. Like, I had one last week with a financial planner and I was fucking drained. Like, I was like, I can't do anything else today. I'm emotionally. And so I started just trying to look for the things that were giving me more and then reducing the things that would take away. And I think, as people start becoming aware of that, they get more done and they're more fulfilled throughout their days.
It seemed like you have an uncanny ability, man, to just go through these life experiences, the good and the bad, and come away with actionable takeaways. Is there any specific mindsets or practices that you're just constantly doing in order to really iterate on your life and improve it?
Yeah, I mean, that's an awesome question. And I hate when people say, man, really great question. It's like, I don't know why we all do that all the time.
I'm giving myself a pat on the back over here. You can say that as much as you want.
Go get a massage today. It's funny because I gave a presentation on Creative Live, and it's like $99. They might have some free previews. And it was like, there's actually a good presentation. I did it on YouTube for free. It's Big Omaha, Noah Kagan, Big Omaha. And maybe you can link to it. And it was how to get everything you want, how to overcome your fear and get everything you want. And I gave a presentation about, how I went through a really rough year for myself relatively to other people. I went through a rough year for myself about like my weight and my business and my relationships. And so it was funny because yesterday I felt like shit, man. Like I didn't feel like working, didn't super feel like working out that much. And I was like, dude, I'm the guy that gave that presentation. Of course I have to feel good all the time. Right? Like, Isn't he supposed to? Like you read his tweets and things are so good and he's got quotes or he's got a blog or whatever the fuck, he's got to have someone that's doing well. And, we all go through ups and downs, right? It's a roller coaster. You have days you're crushing it and you have days you're not. And I think the mindset that I try to use is a testing mindset. I don't have like an official term for it. I haven't really thought about it extensively. But what I try to do personally is test things out on a 7 to 30 day basis. And it's not super rigorous, but let me give you a specific example. I wanted to do handstands. So I said for the month of March, I'm going to do a handstand for at least from 1 to 5 minutes every morning. And so I was like, shit, let me just try these handstands out. And I started out with wall planks. There's actually a great book. It's 28-day handstand challenge PDF. I'll give you the link so you can put it in the credits. It's totally free. That doesn't cost shit. Here, I'm sending it to you via Skype.
Sweet.
And I did it for 30 days. And you know what? I really like handstands, so I'm still doing them. And, like other things, like I found out that I really like protein waffles. So I experiment every morning with making protein waffles. But there's other things, I was talking to my friend Stacy from Nerd Fitness today, and I used to do 120 sit-ups and 15 pull-ups every morning. And I would do them every morning for 30 days. And I found out that after 30 days, I didn't want to get out of bed because I didn't want to do them because I wouldn't eat breakfast until I did them. And I'm like, fuck this. Like, I don't want to keep doing this because it's not making me want to get out of bed and like enjoy my day. And it doesn't mean that everything is going to be fun, but you look at how you feel afterwards. Same with meditation. I did meditation 40 days. There's a great app called IQ Timer, totally free. So I'd meditate for 5 minutes and I did it for 41 days. And my personality is like, I don't want to stop a streak. But after 41 days, I'm like, everyone's saying meditation's helping them. And I did it. And I'm like, I don't fucking feel anything. I just feel bored. And so it's not to say that it doesn't work for people, but all I'm trying to encourage people to do is that I don't think there's one right way to live a life, but add and subtract things. Same with people in your life, add them in, subtract them, and see which ones, at different points in your life serve you. Because some things you've been doing for a while, you probably just at least need to test them to see, all right, I've been a vegetarian. Maybe let me eat meat. Or maybe I'm a meat eater. Let me be vegetarian. And then see what that's doing for your life and then continue it based on what's giving you the better result.
Do you take the same approach with your business in terms of effectiveness?
Yeah, I think the hard part with this kind of mentality is that it's easy to start shifting things too early, and that's the problem that I've had historically, which makes me very effective because I get a lot of shit done, but it doesn't keep. I think I was talking to a friend from sked.org. I really liked his attitude. It's SCHED.org. His name's Taylor Murphy. And I asked him, I was like, how have you been? You've been doing this for a long ass time. Like, how have you been successful? Like, what do you think separated you from the pack? And he said, there's only one thing that's my competitive advantage, and that's patience. And I was like, oh, that's such a good way of looking at it, right? He's like, I've outlasted everyone. I've outdone it. Like, I've gone through the pain longer. And so I don't want people to think, oh, well, you got to test and just move things out quickly. But it's figuring out where that right balance is for yourself and your preferences and ultimately the results. So I'd say for AppSumo, we've done really well because we've found things that worked and we've done more of it. So like in the beginning of AppSumo.com, we used to promote bundles. And then we were like, fuck, it takes 3 months to get a bundle and we make $5,000. What if we just split up the bundle? And then it's like, oh, interesting. Now we're making $5,000 a week and getting a single deal is a lot easier. And so it's being observative. What the fuck? Observative?
Observant?
It's being, yeah. And, kind of looking for what's working to do more of it. Right. And I think you ultimately have to have some type of goal or something you're trying to accomplish. And when you don't, it makes things just a lot fucking harder. So with AppSumo, it's like, all right, we're trying to accomplish a goal. Last year was selling a certain amount of our monthly 1K.com course, which shows people how to start a business. And because we had a goal that was not in a 1 month, it was a whole year goal. It helped us break it down into, we broke it down into monthly goals and daily goals and weekly goals. And we were able to iterate to see, all right, well, what's effective in selling more of this course? And so what was effective, number one, and there was things that were not effective, but number one, it was like, oh shit, if we give real examples of me starting a business, we sell a lot because people believe it, right? Number two, the better we make the course, the more we sell. So we spent, literally months just developing the course, looking at the data. And like data we would look at is, because people always say, oh, we looked at data. I'm like, what fucking data you look at? So we looked at like time on page. So we looked at how long people are spending on each page, because if they're spending too long, they're not moving forward. We tracked like how far people got throughout the course, and then figured out how do we get them further ahead, because obviously you get to the end, you get your own business. We looked at like where people were quitting the course. So what pages were the last pages before they refunded or dropped out? And then we said, all right, what is it about these pages, and how do we then either expand on them or remove them completely? And so a lot of it was like having a goal, breaking down to a daily or weekly basis, and then figuring out which things have been the most effective to do more of. And like the course, like we did some guest posts that didn't work really well. Advertising did okay. It wasn't as great as I was hoping it would be in terms of like I put in $1 and make out a lot more. It wasn't like that much of a big leverage. And so, yeah, I think we do try to take an approach of like, let's try out new things. Let's have a goal. Let's try out things and see which ones are actually the most effective in getting towards that.
Yeah. I mean, it makes a ton of sense. One thing that I think a lot of people do, myself included, I really suck at this, is making sure to be super diligent about doing a proper postmortem to really understand the things that I do. What does that process look like when you're testing something out at AppSumo?
So we kind of stopped doing a lot of our A/B tests. A lot of times, so we actually do that more around our deals. And so what we'll do is, let's say like WP 101, it's a product we promote. It's a great course about how to start a business, how to start a WordPress blog, excuse me. And, we promoted it thinking it would sell, 1,000 or 2,000, ended up selling 500. And I think it was like $15 or so, or $25. I'm not sure the exact price. And it was really low. But we, and so I think the two things, so we did a postmortem, and we're not perfect about that stuff, man. But I think what you have to do is like, let me just break it down in terms of more of a formula. Anytime you get rejected from a sale, like let's say I'm trying to sell you something, that's the part where you actually grow the most. That's the part where you're like, oh shit, why didn't you want to buy it? So I can make it better next time. Right. And I think that mentality, as you kind of highlighted, is like, that's how you can start winning. Because I think most people fail and they just accept it. But when you go and try to start a business and people aren't buying it, you go get rejected from a girl, you do a blog post and no one reads it. What was it about that one that you can really deep dive and then make the next one better? Or when it does work, why is this working?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting. I love thinking about like taking almost a marketer mindset to a lot of situations that people don't, like social interactions. So like, when did this conversation lose energy? When did this girl decide that she wasn't interested in me? And kind of trying to identify the bottlenecks in these interactions with people. It's so fascinating and high value, but I feel like rarely do people do it.
I mean, well, two things for me is like in relationships with girls, I've started looking at when do I get noticed more? So I started painting my toenails and my fingernails. And I know that's really metro and like, I don't know, dude, it's weird. And now I just have my toenails painted. One, it makes me happy because I walk around with my feet and they're all painted and pretty. And I'm like, oh, look how cute they are. And so I'm just telling you. And so what I realized though is like, when am I doing things that other people are responding well to, like a certain t-shirt? And then it's like, well, shit, I want more of that. And I think as you have that mentality, you will get more of it. The other thing is I actually like when bad things happen. And everyone's got their own definition of what bad is. But a more recent experience, or more experience that it's such a stupid one, dude. You're going to think I'm such a tard. But like about, let's see, a year ago, I was having lunch with Jason Cohen of WP Engine. And if you want your blog hosted, WP Engine, they're a good site. That was a nice plug for him. And so we go to this Greek place that I love going to, and I ordered a salad, and I was like, and I kind of mumbled no dressing, and I eat relatively healthy. And so I said to the guy, no dressing, blah, blah, blah. And he puts the dressing on. He literally like car washes it. He puts in the bottom and the middle and the top. And I'm having this meeting with Jason. He didn't notice this at all. And the whole time I'm just like, son of a bitch. Like, I hate the salad. And I was so unhappy. And I kind of, you could say, all right, well, next time and the learning is, all right, next time when I get a salad, make sure I always ask for dressing on the side. And then I also just try to reflect on a higher level of when things happen like that, what can I just generally learn, right? So when I get a speeding ticket, or when a girl doesn't like me, or when AppSumo is not working out, or when, I'm getting food that I don't enjoy, how do I just at a higher level keep thinking, all right, something bad happened. How do I make sure I improve for that future? And just that mindset and thinking about that, has helped me in a lot of different angles of life.
Yeah, I think a big challenge for a lot of people that I'd be curious to get your insight on is even though we do have these failures where we can learn things from them, it's hard to remember those lessons in the future. Is there any type of exercise or affirmation or anything that you do to really like drive these home?
I look in the mirror and I tell myself I'm special. I don't, man. I don't really, I would say for myself, like I started a blog. I think people start blogs for the wrong reasons, and I generally discourage most people from doing blogs. But I would say ultimately in the past year and a half, besides, some ego to some extent, I would say I started a blog to remember stories and experiences that I want to remember. So it's not necessarily like there is to some extent, like I reverse engineer what will be popular, but then I'm choosing of the things I want to write about, which will be the most popular. So as an example, I put out an article a year ago about a cold email I received, one of the best cold emails I've ever received. And I put it out and it just got fucking huge. And so I was like, oh, okay, people like reading about email stories or email improvements. And so I have a story recently that I was like, all right, I'm going to work on that because it was already popular and I want to remember this. It was about how someone rejected me recently. And I was just like, what? I was so happy with the rejection. I was like happy about the rejection. And that's something that it'll help me think about and remember it. And I'm also happy to share that story with other people.
Can we share the story? Can we share the story now?
Sure. I was, I think when you're trying to figure out, a lot of people don't know what they want to work on or don't know which companies they want to work for. And I think one of the easiest strategies for that is two things. One, look at pretty much just one, look at the restaurants or products that that you're using the most. So which apps are you using a lot? So I'm using like Glimpse, GLYMPSE.com a lot. I think it's glimpse.com. It's a Glimpse is the app. And it basically shows people where you're going so that they don't have to wait for you. So it's like, hey, Scott, I'll be there in 10 minutes. I send you Glimpse and you can just see me on a map. Or I use like MyFitnessPal. I'm really enjoying just tracking what I'm eating. I find that really enjoyable. Or even when I worked at mint.com, I saw it and I was like, oh my God, I want this right now. And so I think if you're looking for a job, it's like, all right, well, what am I already using a lot that I already know very well? Or secondly, if you're looking to start a business, it's like, what kind of things have people really resonated with you? So like, I started thinking about that for myself. Like, what have I done that people always respond well to? And it's like, and what have I enjoyed? So what has responded well and I enjoyed? And, I love bringing people together. I really love events and like hosting and coordinating that stuff. So it's like, all right, how do I do more of that? As well, it's like, for myself, I love telling people about things I like. So the rejection email was, I love Taco Deli. It's my favorite taco place in the world. It's in Austin, Texas. And I love telling people about it. I love bringing people there. And so I emailed the owner and I said, can I invest in your business? And that was number one. And will you speak at my event on Friday for monthly1k.com? We're having a members meetup in Austin. And I was like, can you come speak at it? So I will say an asterisk is that if you're ever asking someone for something, make sure you give them something first. And don't do it super inauthentically or disingenuine. Like, hey, I'm going to give you something, but you have to give me something back. You should basically not expect shit. And maybe in the future, if you feel that it's appropriate, then ask for something. I get so many emails like almost daily now where it's like, hey, can you fix my startup or can you do my marketing? And I'm like, I don't even know you. Like I barely, I hardly talk to my mom on the phone. You think I'm going to take time for you? And a lot of that goes back to energy, which is like, why would I give my energy to these people versus the people I already love or people that are already customers and so forth. And so with the Taco Deli, I brought a lot of people there. I spent a lot of money there. And so it wasn't super out of left field, but I asked him to invest and I asked him to come speak. And his rejection was just really fascinating because it was like super complimentary in the beginning, saying no, and then explaining why. So it wasn't like, he's like, look, we've been a homegrown business. We haven't taken outside funding. We don't plan on it. And I really appreciate that you're excited about it. It just doesn't make sense. And for the speaking thing, I'm just, I'm really busy with time. And so he could have easily just responded no. But I think how he explained that he appreciated me, told me no, and explained why no was just a really nice formula around that. And so that kind of post, because it's already worked well in the past, I'm going to do more of. And I think that's something, it's looking at what things are already working so you can do them. And other people might call it reverse engineering. And I think that's a key thing to be looking for in marketing or starting a business or dating is, what are the things you can reverse engineer to get the result you want?
I remember a very specific example when you did this on Pat Flynn's interview, where you basically kind of looked at all the different posts and interviews that were most successful and looked for patterns. And I just really thought that was a brilliant way to get the most out of that experience. Can you think of any other like tactical stories where you've used this reverse engineering technique, maybe in marketing or just any general business?
Yeah, I can give you a lot of examples of how I do it. So I was thinking about starting a podcast, but I think it's almost easier for me to be on other people's podcasts because there's so many new ones. But I actually went through, I'll pull it up. I went through the top podcasts. So here it is. I'm pulling up my notes. I looked up the top podcasts, and then I looked at different factors to see what contributed to the top podcasts as well as their top individual podcasts. So the overall high level and then the individual podcasts. And so I'll just tell you for your readers or listeners, because I think it's interesting, is number of reviews, length of their podcast, topics. So I found that this is a surprising one. I found that a lot of podcasts that had the most popular episode was about making connections. Isn't that interesting? I was like, oh, fuck.
I feel like that's such an obvious topic. It's surprising.
Really? No, dude. I was shocked how many of the ones that were the most popular on different people's was like how to meet new people, how to make new relationships, how to network, which I hate that word, or how to build, how do you build new connections? Then I looked for least popular topics. I looked at reviews to see what people were commenting, like what did they normally talk about? I looked at the length of time of podcasts. And then I looked at Audible and other kind of more framework-based things so I could see which ones have the most reviews, which ones have the most downloads, and so forth. And then that'll help me craft, all right, well, what is missing, obviously, or what is already working that I can replicate? Other things that I've done this around are dating. So I'm single now, and it's figuring out, all right, well, everyone is and their mother's on OkCupid and Match.com. How do I stand out? And so how I stand out is I don't do them. I go to other places. So what are people not doing as much? Meeting in person. I haven't done this. I've tried it. It didn't work super well, but I look for, all right, how do I reverse engineer? All right, well, I know that I'm Jewish, and Jewish has worked really well because I post that I'm Jewish on a few things and I get a lot more Jewish girls. I'm like, all right, well, how do I do more Jewish stuff? So there's an app that isn't used as much called Coffee Meets Bagel, and I post that I'm Jewish because I am. And I'm looking for a Jewish person. And that's actually gotten to be really effective for me because there's less competition around it, and I know that it works. With marketing and so forth, I look at which sites are already bringing me the most traffic. Then I go to those sites. So let me be specific. So I know that, let's say on inbound.org, which is kind of an SEO related site, I look at, all right, two things. Who's writing these articles that are really popular? Secondly, I look at what topics are they writing about that are really popular? And third, I kind of start building relationships with those people. So I use those kind of three different factors to then create content or work with those people to create content that will get to the top of inbound.org. And it has been working. And but it's not that the content's shitty. The content's suited for that audience and it works well. And lastly, I'll say even for AppSumo is just one more clear example. When we started, I had no email list, nothing, just like anybody else who's listening or wanting to start. Not anybody who's listening, but anybody who's wanting to start a business that's listening. And what I did was I went to Lifehacker because I know that their audience is awesome and I love Lifehacker. And I looked at what are their top products that they always talk about. And I emailed them and I cold emailed them and said, hey, I'm going to get a bundle of your top products that you talk about. Would you write about this? So I worked backwards instead of going, and what most people do is they go forwards. They say, hey, I have a bundle of shit. Do you guys want to write about it? And one, you have no relationship. You've spent no time. And I truly think there's some equation that I need to get down to a formula, but it's like the amount of output you get is really dependent on your input. So if you put in 1 minute to writing an email, you're going to get 1 minute of shit getting an output of an email. So I wrote an email, and I'll finish the Lifehacker story, but I wrote an email to a Instagram person that does bodybuilding. His name is Omar. And I followed him for a while. So it's not like I just came across him. I need him to do me a favor or post about me or any of that shit, which most people do. They just send a quick email because they haven't spent time. And I said, I know you're from the 408. I'm from the 408, San Jose, California. I really love your stuff. It's really changed my life, because it has. He's really impacted me on how I was training and how he recommends things. I have this quick question about where's a good knowledge place for reps and sets. I didn't ask him for a whole routine. I didn't ask him to like spend an hour with me. I asked for a very light ask. And guess what? He responded a few hours later. He responded like, I sent him late last night. He sent it back this morning. And so it was like, I didn't just kind of just go right in for it. I worked, and that wasn't my intention. But that worked really well. So I'll finish with the life hacker story.
I really like this framework though. I really like the idea of working backwards and instead of trying to like guess at what is going to be successful, just looking at what you can assume or what implicit signals are already indicating success, and then just doubling down on that.
Well, you do it. It's like the nail polish thing with girls. It's like, I saw that it got me a lot more girls. So it's like, all right, well, let me get more nail polish, and it's not, and the things that don't work, it's great. It's as we talked about in this framework. It's like, that didn't work. Why didn't that work? Mm-hmm. Right. And so it's figuring out like, all right, you go to a bar, let's reverse engineer something. You go to a bar and you drink and you don't meet anyone. All right. That's maybe not as effective as, all right, let me try working backwards from, hey, friends, who knows a single girl? All right. Let's see if that works well. And then seeing, all right, this does work. Now let me go do more of that. There's also a great story on wired.com. I think I could find it. Let me see if I can find it so you can link it to your audience. Yes. Ooh, here it is. It's how a math genius hacked OkCupid to find true love. And the story is awesome because what the guy does is he works backwards to find the girls he wants to meet. And then he sets his own profile up. He optimizes it to finally be able to meet those girls because it wasn't working just, straight up. And I think that's really the kind of fundamentals that I've tried to work on. I'm not perfect at it, but I encourage it. So with the life hacker story, I came to them and I said, here's the bundle. You said you didn't have to write about it, but I got it for you. And I'd love to give you the exclusive. And guess what? They wrote about it. And that's how I got my first, real sales for AppSumo.com.
That's a cool story. I just am on your website right now, OkDork, and it says you give 85% of your business hacks away for free. And although this is just kind of more of a framework and a way to think about things that I think is really super effective, has there been anything else that you've done recently that's kind of been a cool little business hack or unique way to get a lot of value out of something?
I haven't done enough. Fuck. Yeah, I'll give you one more. I mean, I'm only so much, bro. Here's the thing.
You're doing a good job. Keep it up.
Thank you. And I'll give you one more, but I really want people to think about this. And I think about it for myself. I'm not trying to act like a guru or anything. I just try stuff out, and I'm happy to share what works. But I've realized that a lot of people are listening to things and reading things and blogs and talking to people. And I think that's all good. But I think there's a limit to it. And what I've realized for myself is I grow the most and I learn the most and I do the best and I feel the best when I'm creating things and I'm trying out. And I think it's easier to just default to consuming. So I'd really encourage anyone, like, yes, listen to the rest of this podcast, but end it right away and then get your ass to work. Do one thing today, something even tiny. Maybe it's a push-up. Maybe it's a handstand. Maybe it's something for your business. Maybe it's putting sumome.com on your site and so you get more emails. But I would just say, like, go do stuff. Anything. Just get your ass in gear.
Totally, man. And one of the things I was going to say to people listening is, like, we talked a little bit about blogging and like a lot of things you learn about. One of the main reasons that I've been able to codify what works is because I'm constantly creating stuff that I share with people. And in order to share like lessons that I've learned, I have to go back and by default understand like what worked and what didn't. And I think if you're trying to like build this muscle of like having better understanding in your life, just like start creating a blog about stuff that you learn. And I guarantee you'll start to have a better understanding. You'll start building that like creation muscle and that muscle of just understanding like what's working and what's not working.
I think that's a great thing, man. What's funny about mindsets? It's very easy once you've experienced it. It's kind of like you telling me that, oh, healthy is better. Healthy is better. And I'm like, shut the fuck up, dude. I love my Doritos, bro. But I think the ultimate thing is you try exercising out. You actually give it even a little bit of a shot. If you're like, damn, I actually feel pretty good. And now, it's funny. When I started working out, I started looking better in the mirror. And I was like, man, it makes me feel better. I want more of this. And it's not about you work out too much or why are you counting your calories? I'm like, you know what? I enjoy it. It's not that's the bottom line for me. So coming back to your business, I'll give one more and then I'm calling it a day. I have to go get some lunch. So I want to put out great content on OkDork. that's my personal site. I've really enjoyed it. I like just writing. I don't try to monetize it that aggressively. I don't even think hardly at all. I just promote some of the AppSumo stuff when I think it makes sense. And, but what I realized is like, dude, I've only done so much. And I have a decent amount of stories of, working at Facebook or helping out at mint.com and starting two businesses that have, both have done well. And then one got, kind of imploded, which is a pretty crazy story. But what I realized is like, I only have so much to say and I only have so much time to do it. And so what I realized is like getting others to guest post for me based on what topics make sense in terms of like overall scale of reach, and that how my audience respond has been a good way to leverage helping other people as well as growing my own site. And so that's been kind of a big, and it seems, oh, that's obvious, but I've actually been focusing on, all right, what is the content I want and who is the best person or the most interesting that can do it? And so instead of me spending 30 hours writing it, I spend about 5 to 10 hours editing it. And I'm actually enjoying that. And then the person gets a shit ton of traffic and signups and so forth. And then I get great content that one, I get to learn, and two, my audience gets to enjoy. And it grows ultimately my email list, which is my number one objective.
Do you think that that's something that you can do though, because people know who you are and you already have an existing audience?
Well, I would say if you're smaller, I would probably be doing the guest posting on other sites. I think there's a guy named Brian Harris who was in our monthly 1K course. And Brian Harris has done a shit ton of guest posting. He did a guest post on OKDork. And, I think this guy's now getting, 1,000 people a day or so at his site. So yeah, I do think it works. I think what everyone has to do is not just what you listen to on a podcast, but experiment with different things. Maybe social media actually works. I generally think it doesn't. Maybe Twitter and Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest work for you in getting a new audience, or podcasting or YouTube videos. And if they do work for you, do more of them. Or try getting people to guest posts that are maybe a lot smaller for your site. Maybe you do the guest posts on smaller sites. And it's experimenting. I have a thing called quant-based marketing on okdork.com. And I literally just kind of write out different opportunities. And so I'll be more specific. So for like sumome.com, it's a product, as I said earlier, it helps you grow your website. I just don't want to be plugging it too much. But actually, this is an interesting thing. We're sometimes embarrassed of plugging things that we do, even though we're proud of them. And I think it's really interesting. Like, I'm proud of sumome.com. So frankly, I don't mind. I'm not going to mind anymore, at least in this show. So what I've done for quant-based marketing for Sumome is I listed out different marketing opportunities. I've kind of predicted what I hope to get from them in terms of installs. So a few examples are like creating integrations with MailChimp, Aweber, and Constant Contact and getting on their integration page, doing a guest post for WP101.com, writing an ebook about list building techniques, trying to get, partnerships or get ranked in Google for top plugin postings or click to tweet postings. And what I do is I try to prioritize what I think will be the most amount of results for the least amount of work. And it's a little bit subjective. You can get some traffic numbers from places, but a lot of it is just guesswork. And then I do them and I see, all right, is there any certain activities that I can then replicate because they get me a lot more installs? And that's what quant-based marketing is like predicting what you think you're going to be getting for something, doing it, and then seeing what I can do more of and seeing what I can do less of.
No, this has been an awesome conversation, man. I mean, you've really put everyone who's listening, including myself, in this mindset of experiment, then really be diligent about taking a post-mortem of what worked, what didn't, and then double down on that activity. And like you mentioned, this can be applied in your marketing efforts, or it can be applied in your social interactions. But the truth is, the only way for us to improve is to understand ourselves and understand the things that we're doing. So it's been a really, really strong message, man. I know you got to run off to grab some lunch, hopefully tacos, because I know you love those. And
I was actually going to get tacos, yeah, but I think we might get Vietnamese instead.
Actually, I have one question before I ask you where people should go if they want to learn more about you. Dude, what's your favorite type of taco? You're always talking about tacos. I now know your favorite taco stand, which is good intel for next time I go to Austin. But dude, what kind of taco do you get?
My number one taco was actually a cowboy taco, which is like sirloin with avocado, cilantro, and I don't get it with cheese, but that's my go-to. And it's got a little bit of like pico de gallo roasted. So that's been my go-to, but I actually had a great taco randomly. I've been kind of getting into shrimp tacos. I had a really good one. I think it's called habaneros in Las Cruces, New Mexico, of all places.
I'll have to check it out. Dude, well, thank you so much.
Where are you based, man?
I'm based in Brazil, Rio de Janeiro.
Living the dream, bro. Living the dream.
Yeah, but guess what? I'm coming back to the States.
Well, I don't want you to come back to the States. I want you to ever do what makes you happy.
Well, I'm doing it because that's what makes me happy. So I'm excited. But yeah, I am super lucky to be living down here. Dude, if people want to learn more about you, about AppSumo, about some of the things we talked about today, what's the best place for them to go?
So a few of the key sites that I would recommend to people, number one, appsumo.com, a free newsletter, find out great products for running a business, help you kick more ass. Two is sumome.com for, if you want to do marketing, like I saw that you put on your site, dude, which is awesome. So it's on life-longlearner.com. I hope all your listeners know that site.
Me too.
Yeah, seriously. So Sumome is a free tool for growing your website. okdork.com, where I mostly share stories about how to start a business and how to do effective marketing. Sometimes I have other funny ones, like, what I learned about business from protein waffles and so forth. And then also, I'd say the last place, like Twitter. So like at Noah Kagan, NOAHKAGAN.
Great. Well, I'll make sure to link those up in the show notes. Thanks again for coming on, man. This was great stuff today.
All right, brother. Thanks, Scott.
Before we finish up with today's Mindshare, I just want to say thanks for listening to another episode of The Competitive Edge. If you enjoyed the ideas in this episode and want access to all the conversations, tactics, and mind shares we'll be sharing in the future, the best thing you can do is subscribe to The Competitive Edge on iTunes. And while you're there, if you felt like this show has made a positive impact on your day, it'd be great if you could leave us a review on iTunes as well. Now, I know we covered a lot in this episode, and there might be a few key ideas or tools that you want to remember. So we went ahead and compiled all of the notes, links, and even a full searchable transcript of this conversation for you on lifelonglearner.com. That's life-longlearner.com. I also want to give you the details on a cool contest I'm running right now at lifelonglearner.com/fun. By entering the contest, you'll have a chance to win everything from Amazon gift cards to a free month of having your very own dedicated virtual assistant to an opportunity to come and hang out with me and my buds for a few days, where we'll teach you how to create your very own passive income stream. To enter this contest and learn more about everything we're giving away, head on over to lifelonglearner.com/fun. And now, let's dive into today's Mindshare. Hey guys, real quick, people are constantly asking me what are the favorite tools that I use in my life and business. And when it comes to staying on top of all the different sites and blogs and different things that I read, the number one tool that helps me out is Feedly. Feedly is an online reader that allows you to view all the updated content from your favorite sites and blogs in one place. So whether that's your favorite blogs, your favorite authors, whatever it is, I can read all the new stuff coming my way in one single place. And to me, that's really valuable because it helps me stay on top of what's going on. If you want to check out Feedly, I highly recommend going over to feedly.com. That's FEEDLY.com. So I wanted to do this thing in every podcast where I share a tip, maybe a story, maybe something I'm doing in my own business that's working, just something useful to you listeners to finish off the podcast. And I came up with this idea when I asked myself, what do I want out of podcasts that I'm currently not getting? And honestly, I want more inside information from the host, whether that's a little bit more information about his life, his business. I just kind of want to get to know the person better. So at the end of every podcast, I'm going to share a little insider tip, insider story. Could be even just be something that I'm feeling that particular day that I think might be helpful to you. So right now, something that I did today is I'm helping a friend promote a blog post that I think has the potential to be pretty viral. And it's going live tomorrow. And one of the things that we did today was basically across all of our Twitter channels, Facebook, all this stuff, ask people if they've had the experience that the blog post is written about. And we already got a bunch of replies. And then I asked these people for their email address. And I'm going to follow up with them over email and ask for their opinion on the post and use their opinion to enhance it and to better basically add to it. And tomorrow when I post that, I'm going to email all these people and say, hey, thanks so much for your feedback. Thanks for your contribution. Here's the final post. And when I've done this in the past, there's like a 50% chance that these people end up sharing the post with their network. So really what this is kind of a strategy to get people to have skin in the game and to have a stake in a piece of content's success And it requires just taking this small action beforehand and getting people who you think this particular piece of content would be relevant to feel like they've contributed to the end product. And when they feel that way, they're more likely to promote it. So that's today's tip. Hope you enjoy.